For number one on the homework, even though the car is $12,500, since you're putting $3,000 down, we only need a $9,500 loan. That money, when we get a loan, is going into our wallet, so that P fee goes in as a positive $9,500. You got your percent of 6.5%. We're going monthly, so the PPY and CPY are 12 and 4 years, so our number of compounds, we have 4 times 12. We want to solve for the payment. Remember, even though like the calculator is going to say that that is a minus, when you write down your answer, you can just say the positive. Anything that's money, we are rounding to the nearest cent. Any other things we'll round to 3 decimal places. And the one thing I didn't mention is we want to pay off the loan. That's why the final value is 0. For number two, $26,000 car, but you're going to put $4,000 down, so we only need to borrow $22,000. Goes in as positive because when the bank gives us the loan, it goes into our wallet initially. 6% interest, we're going monthly, so PPY and CPY are 12. They told us directly that it's 36 months, so that 36 just goes in for N, because technically that's 3 years and it's 3 times 12. We want to pay off the loan and we want to see what our monthly payment is. Again, the calculator is going to tell you that's negative. That's just to signify that money is leaving our wallet, but when you write your answer, you can just write it as the positive form. So we've got $400 a month that we can pay on a car payment. So we're putting that in as a minus $400 in the payment section. Minus because that money is leaving our wallet when we make that payment. We're compounded monthly, so PPY, CPY are 12. Something I didn't put here, but by default, we're always doing end. And then it was a 3-year loan, so N we had was 3 times 12, percentage we had was 8%. Eventually we want to pay off the loan, so the final value is 0, and we're looking for what is that maximum loan we can take out. So we get that 12,000 and change, but remember that's what we would be able to afford after tax. So think of X as the sticker value of the car. That times 1.08, accounting for the 8% tax, wants us to end up with that 12,764 and change. So divide the 1.08 over, and the highest sticker price of a car we could afford is at 11,819 and 19 cents. So you bought $2,000 of stuff on the credit card. So that money is essentially coming into your wallet when you charge it on the credit card so that you can then use it to buy stuff. We've got 18% interest. If we did 2% of 2,000, that would be $40. So that's our monthly payment. So we've got the minus 40 there, and we want to eventually pay it off. And we've got our PPY and CPY are 12. So we end up getting that it's 93.11 months. If you multiply that by the $40, that's 3,700 and change. So you end up paying a lot of extra essentially. So you end up paying $1,724.40. That's how much money that the credit card company is making off of you because you only paid the minimum payment each month rather than paying it off. So don't put charges on your credit card if you don't have the ability to pay them off each month, because that interest will accumulate and you'll end up paying those for those items over and over multiple times throughout the course of the months. So we've got a $25,000 home. We're going to make a 10% down payment. So if you do 0.10 times the 250,000, that would be 25,000 we're putting down. So subtract that from the overall cost of the house. So the amount of the loan we need is 225,000. We're going to monthly, so PPY, CPY are 12 times the 30 to get our N. 7% interest, and we eventually want to pay off the loan. So therefore, when we solve for our payment, remember that's going to come back as a negative, but we can just write it down as a positive for our answer. So for the actual loan, we're paying that $1,400 and change dollars, but your total payment in the follow-up part, if you consider taxes, if you added that 833 on, so actually your monthly payment would be 2329.93. And then there's other things which we'll talk about in the coming days, like PMI, homeowners insurance, that could also make that monthly payment go up depending how you structure different things with your payment. Okay, when I originally did this key, I did it in 2019, and I looked up what the average home price at that time in the zip code 13066 was, and it was $211,000. Today, that would be significantly higher with how home prices have raised. So the assumptions I made, that was a 20% down payment. So after that 20% down payment, my loan was going to be 168,800, 30-year loan, and at that time I looked up the average interest rate was 4.4%. These days, interest rates are up in the sixes at least. So I use that to help calculate what my monthly payment would be. So it was $845.28. Now your answer would be different there depending on the assumptions that you made. But now in the next one, I assumed I put an extra $100 down. So for this, now I'm doing a payment of $945.28. And what we want to solve for is how long it'll take to pay off the mortgage. It's now 290 months or so, rather than the 360, which is the 30 times 12. So around 70 months shorter. So what we're going to do is see how much money we saved. So do the 360 times your answer to the first part, and take away your end value you got in the second part times your answer to the first part plus the extra $100, and find that difference. For me, that was a difference of a little less than $30,000. So by putting that extra $100 a month on your mortgage payment, in the long run, in the course of your mortgage, saved you $30,000. That's almost, you can think of it as like you'd get a car for that. And also note, we paid the loan off much sooner, so you would be done with your loan payments almost 6 years earlier. All right, it's time for the quiz. You can use your calculator. Remember, rounding monetary things, things with money to 2 decimal places for near cent, and everything else will be rounded to 3 decimal places. Good luck.